Welcome to All the Way Up podcast by Jeffrey Mensah. This is the Bar and Beyond series, a platform where we host insightful conversations that push growth, drive ambition, and shape perspectives of young lawyers. So hi, lovely people. You're welcome to another episode of All the Way Up podcast by Jeffrey Mensah. And today, as always, I have a wonderful person I'm going to be having a chat with. She happens to be a senior state attorney at the Criminal Division of the Attorney General's Department. Esi Dentaa Yankah.
Hi.
Esi, how are you?
Hi, Jeffrey.
It's good to have you on this podcast. I quite recall some time back, I think this 2 years back, we were on our feet in criminal court too. and I don't know how the conversation started, what triggered the conversation, but we just went on and on about mentorship, about career, about LLMs, master's programs and whatnot. And I recall leaving the courtroom telling myself, I should probably be talking to Esi more.
Oh.
Yeah, because it was such an insightful conversation, you know, and fast forward to now, here we are about to have a similar conversation. And it's just good to have you. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's really great to be here. I'm so happy that you're doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah.
And I do remember that conversation. I think it was a good one. And in a way, and as much as kind of we're talking about our own mutual experiences, it gave me an opportunity to reflect as well as to like, you know, what am I saying and what would I, you know, implement or use from the conversation that we had. So it was a good one.
It was a necessary conversation, honestly.
Yeah.
And funny enough, it's part of the inspiration for this podcast as well. Because I feel we're not having enough of such conversations, you know, because like you're saying, it then becomes food for thought. Like you're like, okay, I never thought about this, you know, and you have that focus on that matter, and before you know it, you're able to make better decisions in that regard. So yeah, let's get to it. Let's do it. Do we still do the icebreaker question?
I mean, go ahead.
Okay. So icebreaker question. Icebreaker question. I'm asking because we had already answered it already, but let's do it again.
Yeah.
So would you rather be the best player on a team that loses consistently? So the best player on a team that loses consistently, or the worst player on a team that wins consistently?
So do you know what? I've had a thought. You know, I've thought about it for a second.
Chance, eh?
Yeah, I've thought about it for a second, and I feel like I would stick to the same decision, which is I would rather be the worst player on the best team that's always winning. I don't want any caveats of I'll be on the bench and I won't get a chance to play. So I guess what I mean is if I'm on the team, the playing team, I would rather be the worst on a playing team, or I would rather be the worst player on a consistently winning team than the best player
on a consistently losing team. No, but you see, the thing is, it's a winning team, right? It's a winning team. They're not about to play the worst player. The worst player is going to be the bench school.
I feel like you are stereotyping the kind of team we are talking about. Not all teams have benches and things like that. There are teams where everybody
you just stand in the corner of the field.
I have to be playing.
anyway, but interesting perspective, Esi. So we'll delve into the more serious stuff now.
Sure.
All right. First and foremost, how many years at the bar are you?
So I qualified in 2010.
Right.
So I guess 2010 was my first year. So I guess that would make me 13 years at the bar.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
It's
wow.
crazy. Time flies.
Wow.
I'm wowing myself.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And as a senior state attorney at the Criminal Division, your job is you're a prosecutor, right? What does it entail? Like I have a sense, but what exactly does it entail on a daily basis? What does your job entail?
So in broad terms, what I would be doing is advising, you know, state agencies.
Yeah.
So by which I mean legal advice.
Yeah.
So whatever I need to do to provide the legal advice, I would do it.
Yeah.
I would receive a docket. I would review the docket. If I have enough information to, you know, give a legal advice, I would. But if I don't, I would have to liaise with the investigator. Sometimes I would need to, you know, ask or request, you know, for more information, which might need more investigation. And then offer the legal advice.
Okay.
And then outside of that, going forward, if there's a determination that this is something that needs to go to trial, it means that I would be responsible for that docket. So I would make sure that, like, you know, I prosecute the matter, you know, file it in court, liaise with the witnesses or coordinate the witnesses, coordinate, you know, experts, whoever needs to come to establish the case that I am very convinced I have to go to court with. I would, you know,
so you more or less coordinate the whole thing.
Coordinate it, and then, you know, prepare legal arguments, do the questions, make your submissions in court, and then leave it to the judge to handle. So,
So in essence, you're responsible for prosecuting, putting someone behind bars, right? I mean, because that's the objective. Because once you are convinced that you have a case against someone, the objective would be, right? I mean, depending on the offense, but yeah.
Do you know what? So I feel like it's a very simplistic way to put it, because I don't think I ever set out to put someone in jail. I don't think that's like my objective going in,
right?
You know. There's different reasons why you prosecute, or different reasons why someone is sentenced the way they are. I mean, we could go into jurisprudence and philosophy and all that. I don't feel like that's like the point of this podcast. But I don't necessarily get gratification from hearing the words that someone is convicted and they are therefore sentenced to such and such number of years.
I was going to get there.
I don't personally get a gratification from that. But, you know, because of my preparation for a case, I get to see what the what the victims have gone through. I get to see the impact of the person's actions. It gets me thinking on what do you do with someone in that kind of case? Imagine you have someone who, that's their lifestyle, like the lifestyle they've carved out for themselves means that this is their livelihood. Maybe
inflicting pain,
stealing from people, whatever. It's obviously not in my place to make that decision or to judge, right? But then you think about it, that so should such a person just be left on the streets? Shouldn't they, you know, have a means of learning a lesson, or have a means of redirecting their activities or their lives, so that they kind of resist or desist from doing that?
Makes sense.
So that's sort of what would be running at the back of my mind. I mean, some of the people I prosecute, you end up feeling like it's such a waste of someone's youth, you know, to be jailed for an offense and spend so much
time behind bars.
But then what do you do with that person?
Exactly. It's the best you can do under the circumstance.
Under the circumstances,
All right.
And within the system that I have.
Exactly.
I didn't create this, but I'm kind of working
within
it.
What you find yourself in, really.
All
right. So Esi, what started out the whole idea to pursue a career in law? All right. We're taking it how many years back? 13 years back. Were you one of those who always dreamt they wanted to be a lawyer? Or my grandfather's grandfather was a lawyer and stuff like that? Or
do you know, funnily enough, not. I feel like if I look back on my childhood and the kind of things I dreamed about, I mean, some of them were obviously, I don't know if they were pipe dreams. At the time, I thought they were very realizable. Like, at some point, I wanted to be a rock star. Because when I see concerts on TV, I would be so excited. I would have you know that the very first edition of Stars of the Future, the one that Ifia came out of, the singer
you auditioned.
Yeah, I was like one of the top 10 best singers in the country. And then I bumped. And then the whole thing just went sideways.
You know something?
Did I look familiar? It's like my star quality was shining. I am serious.
Well, that's amazing.
But like I choked. So I feel like maybe public singing is not my forte.
Bathroom singing is,
bathroom shower singing. I mean, if I'm in my house, it's a jam.
You're a superstar.
I mean, Beyonce crowd doesn't reach. But so I feel like I had all sorts of views. It wasn't one of those things where I've always sat down and thought I'm going to be a lawyer. It's my passion. And, you know. I mean, I think with everybody, you kind of see what society pushes at you through TV shows and stuff, and you kind of admire people. So there were people who were playing or who were lawyers, women lawyers, or I'd see female characters who are lawyers. I would admire them, but it wasn't necessarily because they were a lawyer and they were doing this thing that I really enjoyed. But I think, after I finished my high school, then you had to choose your courses for uni. I thought I kind of had like a bit of a think on what I feel like I enjoy or what I think fits well with maybe what comes naturally to me.
To you,
because I actually did science in high school. Like I was a science student. And when you're a science student in Wesley Girls, I feel like everyone assumes that you're going to be a doctor.
A
doctor, pharmacy. It's like there are some very traditional,
traditional professions that you're expected to be in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of like, so when you go to medical school or when you go to tech and you do such and such engineering and all these kind of courses. But I think when the prospect of law kind of came in the mix, and I think at the time Tech had introduced the law program
for
the year before or something, for undergrads. It was just like a year or 2 years old at the time. So it wasn't even that well known as an undergrad course. But then I saw it in the prospectus and I think I got a little bit excited. And then it's like, I started giving it a bit of a thought. I was having the conversation with my parents. I remember my mom actually, like, it was almost like she was kind of saying, I've always felt like this is more of the kind of thing that would be your speed.
Right.
I've always kind of thought. So it just kind of got me thinking. I realized like, maybe. Because I kind of like the social side of things, the talking side of things. And I imagine that if I was to go into like a science-based course, imagine I'm a science researcher and I'll be alone in the lab somewhere in the basement. It's
not the rock star.
No.
It doesn't gel the rock star life at all.
So I feel like, that's how I ended up where I am. And it was a revelation, I have to say, because I loved it from the beginning. When I went to undergrad law, it was almost like a light bulb moment. Constitutional, like I would wake up excited to go to class. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I enjoyed it.
Oh my goodness. When you said that, someone just came to mind. She's a classmate of mine. And she had the same excitement.
Did she?
I didn't quite enjoy my time at law school, to be very honest.
Who made you go?
Well, for me at the time were to of course apply for university. Because of the program I did in senior high school, I was Presbyterian boy senior high school. We are 7 and living God.
Okay, sure.
But then,
go on.
because of the course I opted for, as a 7-time champion. Let's acknowledge that. But anyway, because of the program I did a liberal arts, like pure arts class. So government, Christian religious studies, French, and what else? Something else. But basically, that was the line of programs I did. And I was looking at the options available in University of Ghana, which I was applying to. And it was either political science with a French combination, because I love the French language, or law, because they had just introduced law.
Oh, for undergrads.
In the University of Ghana at the time I was applying. Oh. So I actually chose political science and French. Yeah. Had a conversation with my dad. My dad, you know what, law is heavier.
Yeah.
So it in my case it just happened to be the best available program that matched my course of study, and that's how come I found myself in.
I'm actually curious now that if, like, imagine that every course of study was on the table.
Yeah.
What do you feel like you would have wanted?
It would have been a tough choice for me. I to be honest, because I had just 2 options in this case.
I mean, like, if they've, like, all the courses in the world even, and they put that on the table, what do you think you would have been kind of going for? Or were you just kind of looking at the choices that you had in selecting?
I was honestly just looking at the choices I had at the time, because in those early stages I was quite indecisive, not knowing what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I keep telling people that my choice of the law, although it wasn't inspired by anything, as I progressed in it, I kept getting more and more reasons why I didn't make the wrong choice.
Right.
And so it wasn't more like people ask, why did you like the law? Why did you choose the law? Mine was, as I'm progressing, I'm now discovering the reasons why the law, after all, wasn't a bad program for me.
Yeah, because I think there's this thing about law too, where everyone can kind of find a bit of themselves in the courses.
Exactly.
So when I was coming out, like I said, I was a science student.
Yeah.
I've been doing like elective maths
Chemistry
for this long, chemistry, very analytical, very calculated kind of thought process. Like step A has to go through step B to get to step C kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then I found myself using similar lines of thought, even
same
in
logic and all
constitutional
of that
law.
to
Like
analyze cases
this must
and all.
make sense
Precisely.
with this.
Precisely.
Like so, I feel like it has that thing.
Argument to support the conclusion and stuff like that. Yeah.
Logic.
So I mean that's my story.
Yeah.
I think you've hinted a bit on your background before the law.
Right.
You went to Wesley Girls.
Yes.
Yes.
I did.
Okay. But prior to Wesley Girls, where were you?
I went to Outside Academy.
Okay.
And then Achimota Prep.
Outside is the DB line? Or?
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you know, I found out that they just turned Achimota Prep into a basic school, like a government basic school. So I feel like I'm balanced. So like
at the time you were not. I mean,
well,
prep school. It's
by the grace of God.
We thank God for that. You've touched on what your law school journey was like. I mean, you hinted that you're the kind that was super excited about constitutional law.
I mean, and the other courses as well.
The constitution gave me a slap in the face in first year.
I'm sorry.
It was terrible. It's terrible. But anyway, that's a story for another day. So progressing, would you say what law school taught you something, or you acquired certain skills that you feel are useful to you now in law school, aside the substantive law, of course, that you studied?
Law school taught me skills. So I think that law school was a varied experience. So there were definitely highs, like I said. There would be excitement learning the subject, and it kind of makes you feel like you're at the forefront of what's going on, because you are dealing with, what affects people, the kind of things people talk about on the radio all the time. You're like, you have a really good understanding of the issues. But I think it was also very challenging in how rigorous it is, because I think however way you approach law, it's quite a rigorous course.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of reading material. I mean, I enjoy reading for fun, but this, even for me, this was like, this is much.
Reading
this
for
quite
work.
a bit. I know this is a bit much, but I think, yes, being able to stick with that, like that whole experience is a bit of a discipline.
Yeah.
So that taught me a lot. I feel like that kind of taught me about persevering with something, not getting an immediate result.
Yeah. Following through till you see results.
So I would say that I did then.
Law school, did any low moments? How did you come back from them? Or you passed all your papers?
Well, I mean, I think I did pass all my papers, but I would high five for me. But I think, it wasn't easy.
Right.
It wasn't easy. I remember there were some papers that I was like wondering, what the heck am I doing? Like, there would be times where I would feel like I don't understand anything what's going on. Do you know what? I actually really enjoy jurisprudence.
Oh my goodness.
Big up to Professor Dapa, because I really enjoy jurisprudence. So for me, it was more about the procedural sides.
Okay.
That was a little bit too abstract for me, if I should put it that way.
Okay.
I don't have practice experience, so whatever they're telling me
is all you
is
have,
a practical
really.
Matter, and I don't know how to. Like at the time, I didn't know how to visualize what
the
that
theory.
was.
When it's actually practice that you're supposed to be.
I think I struggled a bit with that. So those were actually really low moments. I feel like that time kind of taught me an appreciation for my friends, because I was really leaning on some of my friends at the time, even for comfort, when I'm feeling kind of bad, like just to have someone to be able to vent at, and they were so kind and kind of gave me that space.
The punching
to
bag.
Vent. And I mean, they are really good friends. They are still my really good friends. So there was a bit of that. And I think one of my lessons was also realizing that I do have my own style of learning. So I need to have the bigger picture. I need to see the end goal, or I need to have like a bigger story that I'm plugging that piece of knowledge into. Whereas at the time, I wasn't really thinking about, maybe I just don't learn this way. So I think that was also a lesson, like, getting to know myself and how I also approach things.
Well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Let's move. You're done with law school. Of course, the first stage of being a lawyer is pupillage, right? What was it like for you? where did you serve your pupillage first and foremost? What informed the decision to be there? And yeah, let's start from there.
Yeah. So when I finished law school, I hadn't done my national service yet.
Okay.
So I was posted to the Attorney General's office to do my national service. And when I got there, it was such a warm reception. I remember the head of HR at the time was so welcoming. I mean, introduced me to everybody in the building, basically, like just took me up and down the building, introducing me to everyone. So telling everyone that, so if you see this person here, it's not a stranger, say hello. Basically trying to get me in with everyone. And I was actually really touched and taken aback by that. It was so warm. Yeah. Everyone else was, everyone was welcoming. Really nice. I was sent to the department head at the time, who was, very kind, I thought. So I don't know, but I just felt at home. I did. I felt like, this is not bad. It wasn't like a calculated thing where I was thinking, I'm going to come in here and this is where I'm going to land and this is my strategic. I think it kind of surprised me. I wasn't even expecting to get that in a work environment. So it was really warm. It was really welcoming. And then on top of that, coming out of law school, I knew that I wanted to my interest is in litigation, unfortunately. Okay. Well, I don't know if I should say unfortunately, but I enjoyed the sides of litigation that I studied in school. Okay. Like when I'm reading about arguments that people had made, that sort of thing, I enjoyed that. So I was actually looking forward to graduating to enter into that kind of litigation sphere. And then I think I went in the first day, like my first day in pupillage. It was like the corridors were buzzing with people wearing their robes, and this person is going to this court. This person is like telling someone that, okay, so I'll see you today. I'm heading to circuit courts, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to court. And I just thought, this is it. Like, find somewhere to jump in and go, And like I said, because everyone was so welcoming, I could tag along with everyone. I would go to courts, enjoy the proceedings there. I think it was great. So at that point, I thought, okay, it seems like there's a lot of work here, like a whole bunch of work, where it's like, I know that I would definitely get an opportunity to work on some of these files, just being in this environment, because someone can have a pile of files on their table.
And it's just them.
And it's like, do you need any help? And they're going to say yes. So I kind of slotted myself in there. I would go with my seniors to court. I'll take their notes for them. And they also were very inclusive. So if they were preparing and preparing for a case, and there's a witness who's coming to the office to prepare for cross-examination. So they are like, doing pre-trial conference. I'd be sitting in, and at some point, it's like being thrown a bone or something. It'd be like, do you have any questions that you want to ask? And I'll just be feeling like, I've arrived. So they kind of gave me the chance. It built up my confidence.
So this is after national service?
This is during national service. So my national service and pupillage was an overlapping thing. Okay. I kind of did it at the same time. Right. I was lucky enough to sort of be handed over to, lovely senior colleagues who kind of took me under their wing, would take me to court, obviously with them being in court, because we've gone through pre-trial and all that, at some point they would ask that, okay, with this section of the cross, do you want to take it? Oh my goodness. And that was so exciting for me. It was so satisfying. It was so exciting for me. And I felt like, it kind of made me feel like, you know what, I feel like I have an aptitude for this. I realized that there were certain things that I hadn't really, considered about myself, but it kind of slotted in really well with the job. I think I feel like I'm pretty quick on my feet, as in, if I'm presented with a set of information, I have to work with it in the moment. I think I kind of have that presence of mind where I'm able to figure out like where I'm going with this and kind of put it out there. So that kind of worked for me. And obviously I haven't tested this. I don't know about this. And then it's like, oh gosh, this is gelling. This is nice. So I think I had a really good experience with my pupillage. I think also because of the office I was in, the kind of people I was working with. I completely rate my experience.
100%.
Yeah, I really rate it.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear you had such a wonderful experience. It was for 6 months, right?
It was. So the pupillage officially was 6 months.
Yeah.
But because I was doing national service, which is a year, so I used the whole year to kind of do my national service. But then it's like it included the pupillage time as well.
So post pupillage, I mean, you're done with pupillage now. The 1 year period has expired, right? What was the next step? Were you sure that, look, I'm staying? Or, I mean, there were other considerations running through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, I ended the pupillage and put in my application. And at the time, to be fair, the Attorney General's office wasn't the popular choice. I think everybody wanted to, go into private practice.
Yeah.
So that was like what everyone was leaning towards. But yeah, I didn't really have a hesitation. I kind of decided that I was going to put in my application. So I think I finished my national service around September-ish or October-ish of the following year. And I put in my application. I think they called me for the interview, and by December I had an offer letter, which I accepted and then started. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't a question for me about staying. Yeah. But I think that it kind of depends on people's priorities at the time as well, because I think people have different needs, people have different interests, people have different motivations. And at the time, I was more excited about gaining experience than maybe making money.
Right.
Because I think if my focus had been, I want to make as much money as I can in my early days, I might have gone into a different area. Like maybe try private practice or try to go into a corporate
setting where you can get your stable income and all that.
Or higher,
Sure.
But at the time, I feel like I was just focused on, I'm really enjoying this. I feel like there's more to learn. I feel like I've identified some skills that I want to work on within myself. So just to take that chance and then take it.
And pupillage, was it criminal? Were you thrusted into criminal jurisdiction, or you did a bit of civil as well?
No, so they asked, I think I remember on the first few days I was asked, I think I had a meeting at the upstairs, and I was asked where I wanted to, where I wanted to kind of start out. And I went into the criminal division. And then after 6 months, I was given the option of, do you want to flip and go to the other side? And I felt like I'd barely learned
anything criminal.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I had the kind of grasp that would make me feel confident that, like, I know what I'm about. So I just decided to continue. And then, it just kind of kept going from that point.
That's amazing. Yeah. So the experience, all right. So I guess after pupillage, now you're prosecutor, right? You're probably part of a team or something of the sort. Did you ever encounter a scenario or instances where people would probably look down on you, probably on basis of maybe gender, years at the bar? Because I'll share a quick experience. All right. So after my call to the bar, again, just like you, I hadn't done my national service, so I merged it with my pupillage at the Legal Aid Commission. I quite recall this brief was handed over to me, and I heard the lawyer on the other side, and then his client. It actually came from his client's mouth that Obepe lawyer. So they are referring to the client who I was representing,
right?
And they are telling the clients, Obepe lawyer, or say legal aid lawyer, now legal aid lawyer, and so a small boy we now coffin, right? And I mean, it hurt my feelings. I don't lie.
Sorry.
But then I think it also motivated me to go so hard.
Like to show them.
Exactly. Because I was going against a lawyer who was, I think, probably 10 plus years at the bar, right? And this is me, pupillage, handling this matter. It was I had to handle from start to scratch to end. And again, at the end I won, but it's just this kind of scenario that I want to find out from you. I mean, have you ever been facing such a scenario where Charlie, they are looking down on you? And,
do you know what? I feel like maybe I'm completely oblivious because I feel like I haven't had that experience at all.
Are you serious?
No, I feel like I haven't. And so I also kind of have that, I don't know if it's like a conscious belief or something I've like actively cultivated within myself. But I feel like you kind of determine, you leave your calling card
Right.
So if there's a question, then maybe it's like they didn't feel you, or they didn't hear you enough, or they didn't see you enough, or like,
so you have the power really to
you really determine how you are perceived. I feel like that's my like, I
that's
feel like
actually
I kind
a
of,
different perspective.
that's kind of what I work with, because I think at the end of the day, it's what you think you are bringing to the table that matters, because the person on the other side really does not know. The only thing they are doing is making an assumption. But then it's like you might be you might be putting yourself in a situation where you are always hoping that the person opposite is giving you a positive assumption, when that's not the point. The point is, what are you bringing? It shouldn't have to be about what the other person is perceiving about you. So if you're not bringing what you feel like you need to bring, then you kind of have to adjust your own like sort of approach.
Like you have the authority to set the record straight. So if
or
someone
to set
has
the agenda, or to leave, like I said, leave
the
your
mark,
calling
exactly,
card. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you want someone to think that, you know what, this is a lawyer who knows what they're about and all that, you prepare the heck out of the case. You go in knowing what's probable arguments can come up. You're prepared with your counter arguments. Like, nobody is going to surprise you.
Yeah, exactly.
You have complete control over your case. In fact, the fact that you have complete control of your case means that nobody should be able to say something that you haven't anticipated.
Right.
So if they do say something that you haven't anticipated, then maybe you're deserving the reputation that they
have about you.
Right. Do you get what I mean? So I feel like you kind of determine what you're bringing to the table. And you do determine what you're bringing to the table, whether you actively decide to or not. You know, so that's kind of how I've kind of approached it. But like I said, it could be because I'm very oblivious as well. So maybe they could be talking and I'm not even paying attention or something.
But I think it's an interesting perspective. I never looked at it in that manner, and it's actually the truth. I mean, you have the power to disprove or dispel whatever notions people have about you. You know, so career trajectory. Okay, 13 years at the bar. You started out criminal prosecution. What has it been? Yeah, it's been criminal prosecution to the level of senior state attorney. Right. So you started as what? What's the first level? An
assistant state attorney.
All the way through. So how many stages is that?
This is like 3 stages.
Okay. And what has it been like? I mean, has it just been criminal prosecution, or at some point in time you entered other areas, or what has it been like?
So it's been criminal prosecutions, but it's interesting. Like, it might seem like quite a narrow scope, but there's so many different varieties or different things that you do within criminal prosecution. So you might be, thinking about financial crime, you might be thinking about narcotics, you might be thinking about homicides, you might be thinking about, dishonesty offenses like fraud and stealing and that sort of thing. You might be thinking about, some of these more personal offenses where like someone is abused, that kind of thing. So it's like you deal with so many different ranges that it doesn't seem monotonous, if I should put it that way. And then there's also the chance to kind of get a lot of training. So that's, I think, one of the good things about the Office of the Attorney General. There's so much training. They really invest in training, attorneys who are there. So it's like you get training to the level where you are able to interact with your international counterparts. You interact with people from other countries. You kind of compare notes. So it's quite varied. It's, like I said, it may seem a bit narrow, a bit niche, but there's a broad category under that as well. So it's been quite interesting kind of getting to know or having exposure to different aspects of criminal law. And I think because of that as well, it's like there's a focus, or you're also able to think about the issues because you are dealing with a lot of issues regularly. And so you are seeing things that, maybe this, you can think a bit more deeply about this rather than get to skim over this area and then you move on to the next and move on to the next. So it's been interesting.
Nice. So aside from litigation, courtroom practice, has your law career taken you anywhere else, any other area, say academia or anything of the sort?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to do to help out with training programs. I have had the opportunity to tutor at the law school as well. So that was really interesting. So I found that I really enjoyed that. Like, it was something that I think I had thought about that, this would be something I'd be interested in trying to see how I kind of, feel about, or, how I kind of fit in that. And I think it was really good. I hugely enjoyed teaching as well. So,
right.
yeah.
And in that area, academia, what were you really drawn to teaching? Was it still criminal procedure or other aspects?
Criminal procedure, because that's what I know.
Right.
Because I think if I'm going to be, teaching somebody, I don't want to be, I guess, giving them something that I have just read off of a textbook. I think the lived experience also has a contributing factor to play. So being able to bring some of these things to life, just because this is not just something I'm seeing in a book. Like I literally did this maybe 2 days ago in court, or so that made it quite interesting.
That's we've been having a conversation about other aspects of law, legal writing, and other necessary skills that you feel a lawyer should have to enhance his or her practice or delivery. What's your take on some of those areas which you feel probably a lawyer or practicing lawyer should pay attention as they rise in their practice? I mean, because I'm a young lawyer, so if you had to advise me in that regard,
I think going into legal education can be daunting in the beginning. So I think there is that. I think one thing I noticed was that sometimes people might not have the confidence, or they don't feel that they have the confidence to really put their thoughts on paper, to really argue their points on paper. And I think, that sort of hesitation affects the way people put down their analysis when they have to approach a legal essay. I've actually even been thinking that I would want to do like a sort of like a writing workshop just to help people out with that sort of thing. Okay. So I'm looking at this writing workshop where I sort of help people out. I would review their scripts and then give them feedback. We can have a roundtable conversation on some of the tips and the pointers that, they can use to be able to do a legal analysis paper or generally analyze, like do an analysis like in writing. So I'll put it up.
It's in the pipeline, right? Or how soon should people expect?
I think they can check the link now just to see. So if you go into Eventbrite, you should be able to see Esi's writing workshop. Okay. So if you do a search for Esi's writing workshop, you should be able to see something in there. Right. And then I'll also put the link in my socials as well. So if people want to check the link in my bio, sure,
that'll be helpful. I think it's a brilliant idea, honestly. I mean, anything to better the young lawyer, anything to enhance his or her skill, I think it's a big plus. A big smiley face.
I mean, I'm glad to hear that. So maybe you can check it out as well.
I will. I will, Esi. I will, because I mean, in practice, writing written submissions, and I keep telling people that you finish the chunk of the work, the trial, you close your case, and you cross-examine the other side and all of that. But then just when you think you are getting to the end, you still have like a major hurdle to cross, right? Which is you're filing your written submissions, right? And I think people downplay the amount of industry that should go into that piece, because that's your final opportunity to, draw the judge's attention to a thing or two. And from my experience, I realized that a written submission, actually has a lot of impact on the case. Unless, of course, I don't want to say that, but I just know it's effective, and so
it is. Do you know what? So I think that there's like certain baseline sort of things that you kind of need to put in at the back of your mind just to be able to have, a good structure. I think having a clear structure, being able to express yourself well on paper is like the beginning of being able to successfully, argue your case. So I'd be excited to get into that. If people want to check that
Something
out.
just came to mind, and this is a senior told me. He was like, when you're drafting a statement of claim in a civil matter, he's like, you should be able to draft it in such a manner that it can easily be converted into a witness statement. Right. And so you're providing all the salient facts to the right level or extent of detail, so that when it comes to filing or written submissions, you're not now going to start drafting from scratch, but at least you have a good foundation on which to further develop the facts that you want to disclose to the court. And that just falls within the domain of good legal writing. And I endorse your upcoming workshop, and I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Amazing.
Esi, let's go to graduate studies. Graduate studies. What's your take on graduate studies? Should a lawyer engage in graduate studies, pursue graduate studies, should it be in a law-related area, or should it be something else? Because I've had conversations with my other colleagues, and some have shared interesting perspectives. We don't want to box ourselves up in, the law, so to rather go in for, a master in some other area. But what has been your experience with graduate studies?
When it comes to graduate studies, I think it's purely your individual preference that would dictate if you want to take that up or not.
Yeah.
So first of all, you're kind of looking at what the career you've embarked on demands, or the area that you're in, what that area demands.
Yeah.
So for some people, perhaps the subject matter that they want to involve themselves in was not taught as a module in their law course.
Right.
So for such a person, you would want to probably take that extra course, or that graduate course, to be able to give yourself a grounding in the subject matter to move forward.
Okay.
But for others, they've, studied a particular module in, their undergrad law course, for which reason they don't need to restudy it or retake it in graduate studies, because they can prove that they studied it, in their undergraduate course. And especially when you've studied it and you're also in practice on that same subject matter. So you don't actually need that extra grounding. So I think in that sense, it depends on you. You have to kind of question yourself on, why exactly are you trying to do this course then? Like, what exactly is your motivation? People take graduate courses for different reasons. So we talk about grounding yourself in an unfamiliar area. For some people, it's just for the networking. They want the links. They want to be able to go to graduate school and make contacts in such and such different countries. For some people, they want to travel. They want to have a feel of a different educational environment to kind of see how other people, approach studies, or, kind of imbibe knowledge, or how they study things or make references or whatever. So that's another thing. For some people, they want to be attached to a prestigious university, because that school could be your door opener. You mentioned there are some schools names that you mentioned, and globally, you kind of get a certain level of access. Or it might mean that someone will pick out your CV over somebody else's.
Right.
So that could be it. You don't, in that situation, for someone, they might not necessarily have needed to do that course again because they've done it in undergrad, but they want that name on their CV. So that could be what you.
But what has your experience been like, your personal experience with master's program, graduate studies?
I think it's been a mixture of both. So I did graduate studies, and it was an MSc, which was, policy analysis, basically. In criminal justice. Right. But then it was an interesting flip of, it's sort of like a mirror image of studying law. Like, not mirror image, maybe that's a wrong analogy, but it's like the flip side of studying law. With law, it's a lot of philosophy and a lot of like legal theory to give justification for why, a certain decision or precedent exists. Whereas with the policy studies, it was looking at, but what's the evidence for this in real life? How do we research the impact? Yes, we've done the theorizing and we've come to this conclusion that this is the approach that works. But then policy studies would be asking you, but when you applied it, what was your end result? How measurable was it? What did you use to assess the impact of what you were doing? How do you go forward then using findings that people have researched or studied? So I thought that was an interesting way of approaching things. So it's like, there's a lot to talk about evidence-based policymaking and all of that. But I think that was what made me appreciate that phrase, evidence-based policymaking. So I think for me, that was my experience. I obviously have done criminal law for a long time, so it's not like I needed the expertise to tell me, like, how should I approach criminal law, criminal prosecution. But sort of to look at it in more measurable terms was what I was looking for. And I think I had that.
You had that.
And then also because I did my graduate studies in a different, educational environment, I think it also taught me about a different way of approaching, how you take in information. I feel like I got good networks out of it as well. So all in all,
if I may ask, where did you do it?
London School of Economics.
Right. So, that's big. That's amazing. That's nice. So future wise, what's it looking like? It's still going hard on criminal prosecution, or
for now that's
ambitions to join the bench, or
for now that's what I'm doing. But I think, I don't know, I kind of don't want to overthink it too much at this stage.
You're open to
yeah, I mean,
opportunity.
I'm not trying to overthink it at this stage.
I hear you.
I'm figuring it out as I go along.
I hear you. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Work-life balance. Work-life balance. How do you spend your pastime?
So this is an interesting one. I feel like when I started out, I kind of got really into work and I wasn't really thinking in terms of work-life balance. I don't know if that was even a thing when I was, out of school where people would
You're
ask
excited about constitutional. How do you expect it to
I
happen?
was, but I think, I don't know if we were even having that conversation. I feel like in recent times we hear a lot about work-life balance, mental health, like taking time out for yourself. But I don't know if that was even a thing back then. But I think it's something that obviously for me, it's quite important. I think it's good to have balance. I think it's good to, be able to touch base with family, friends, to be able to do things that you enjoy, have your, leisure activities. So yeah, I really agree with the fact that there should be that work-life balance.
But what has your balance looked like?
I think that I'm, luckily in a position where I am able to have work-life balance.
Okay.
I have, hours within which I work because I work in the civil service. You have your opening time, your closing time. And then in the evening, I have my free time. There are activities that I enjoy. I like to work out. I like swimming.
Right.
I like to, spend time with my family, with my friends. So I feel like, I'm.
You struck the balance nicely, yeah.
I'm trying.
You're trying.
I'm trying.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Yeah. Has faith, spirituality played a part in your journey?
Do you know what? I would say yes, in a huge way. Because I think there have been things in my job I feel like that I have seen that has made spirituality
key for you, right?
If not key, essential. I mean, that I work in criminal law.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been times when I've been in court and you would see maybe someone on the other side chanting against you.
For real?
Against, I'm not even joking.
Like you see the person doing it.
Yeah, they are mouthing things, And it's not like I'm just sitting there like seeing people having like their own mumblings and imagining things. Like this is something that other people comment on. I've been in situations where judges have reprimanded, people that like, what are you muttering, I mean, I've seen this. I've seen this for real.
Wow.
I remember I was in court once. I don't know. Maybe nobody should come for me when I say this, but I was in court once where the case I was handling had a fetish priest as an accused person with his, should I say, apprentice or assistant or something.
And you were prosecuting the matter.
So I was prosecuting this case. And this fetish priest would, come into court for the presentation of the prosecution's case. So it got to a point where we had closed our case and it was for them to then open their defense. So the fetish priest obviously has his portion to say, and then it came time for the apprentice to speak.
Yeah.
But the apprentice's story, was kind of heaping the blame on
the fetish
priest. So he was kind of like, taking himself out of the equation a little bit. And Jeffrey, I'm not even kidding. Like, I've never seen this in court. So this guy came to court and he sat in the witness box and he opened his mouth and he couldn't talk.
Are you serious?
I'm not even joking. Like, that was such a jarring experience for me.
He's trying to talk, but then...
Like, literally the guy is trying to, like, speak. And it's like, it's almost like he's straining, but there's nothing coming out of his mouth.
Wow.
So I think they started to say that maybe he wasn't well. I think they sent him to like the court clinic to check him out, see if he had like laryngitis or something. I don't even know. But this was intense. But I feel like these are like little experiences that I have. And I also know for a fact that like people take all sorts of, should I say, protective measures when they are coming to court. So I feel like for me, I don't have
you need
that
to arm
kind
yourself
of,
as
but that's
well.
the thing. So I don't resort to that. That's not my thing.
Exactly.
So it means that the one that I do have, I kind of have to stick
with that.
That is all. Keep going, stick with that and move,
Exactly.
So yeah, I feel like it's been sort of a buttressing. It's kind of held a buttressing to my faith. But this, even outside of court, I think, in my career, I've been fortunate in where I've worked. Like I said, when I started out, the Attorney General's office is not, well, at the time, it wasn't like the best paid position.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a civil servant role. You're not going to be rolling in riches or whatever. People will see private practitioners rolling in their Rollies and their Mercedes and whatnot. And that just wasn't it at the time, you know. But luckily, like, I feel like I've been really fortunate in how things have worked out, because I've been able to, you know, I think things have been good. And it's not in a way that I had calculated that, like, as if I made this happen, like I made moves and this happened and I'm making bank or something. Yeah. So I would attribute it to, you know, some things that I can't control. And I you know, grace and favor, I guess. So I think those are some of the things that have strengthened my faith or made me rely on faith, you know, more. And we deal with all sorts of things when you're a lawyer as well. So just for protection and all that. Some things you can't calculate; they are not within your control. So I can only attribute it to God.
That's actually very very powerful and insightful as well. We're concluding, right? And my question really is, what has been your approach to consistent self-development and bettering yourself? What has that looked like for you? How have you gone about it?
So for me, I think that it's your personal responsibility to kind of figure out what your trajectory is and how you want to grow. Like the how is up to you. So I feel like if someone has like something that they feel like they want to explore or something that they want to develop their skills in, they need to seek people out to do that. So you know how you were talking about, we had this conversation about mentorship. So they can identify someone that they admire in that and then sort of try and, you know, pick up ideas from that person. You can see the person and have a discussion with them, or even observing the person from afar and figuring out how they worked it out. So I feel like that's one thing. I feel like seeking out the training too, if it's within your means to do so, is one. Like there's so many short courses, you know, in town. I remember like back in the day, I would be going through the Daily Graphic, looking up short courses that I feel like were relevant. So like if I see something that I feel like I liked, I'll call up and make inquiries about it to see if it's something that I could fit within my time. So I remember I did like a communication certificate at GIG or something at the time. It was so interesting because the way they approach things obviously is completely different from how they would do in law. But I just thought, you know, that's like addition, like adding on to your skill set, right? So it's things like that. So it can be in different forms. You could try and get short courses. You can talk to mentors. You can look into graduate school if you want to. There are so many online courses as well, certificates. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily strictly in the area that you're in. Because I feel like there are other things that are also of value. You could be a lawyer with a data analysis certificate. And I feel like it's just adding on to
your skill set.
Right. And what you bring in terms of what you can contribute to a situation or, you know, a workplace or wherever you find yourself. I think it's your responsibility to kind of look out for some of these things and then, you know, look for them and do them.
Esi Dentaa Yankah.
What's up?
Senior State Attorney.
Oh, stop it.
It's been a very insightful conversation, honestly, very interesting as well.
Yeah, no, it was nice. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. We probably should do it again.
We should try another one.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
But let's look out for Esi's legal writing course.
Yeah, so Esi's writing workshop.
Esi's writing workshop. Yes, let's look out for it. I think it's a brilliant idea.
On Eventbrite. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do well to post the links and any other handles that they can reach you on.
I mean, I think if you go into the Eventbrite website or app and then you search for Esi's writing workshop, it should be in there.
Sure. So thank you very much, people. We've come to the end of today's episode. It's been very, very insightful, very wonderful. I enjoyed myself. I really, really did enjoy myself. Look out for the next episode as well. This is All the Way Up podcast by my good self, Jeffrey Mensah. Thanks for spending time with us.
Yeah, well, that was good.